Good morning, everybody. It's Hammer. Today is Tuesday, April 9, 2024. I, of course, am with Originator Success here with your daily mortgage rate update, the only place on the web where you can join me live each and every day at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Talk about what's going on with rates and pricing. If you're watching the replay, don't forget to give us a hashtag replay in the comments. Always appreciate you doing that. If you're on Facebook, don't forget to smash that like button, tag an hello friend, share us in a group. If you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and click that thumbs up, subscribe, and maybe do that notification bell. Remember, if you'd like to get an email to your inbox each and every weekday morning, you can get that at www.ratelockadvice.com. You can also sign up for our text alerts, www.ratetextalerts.com. You can also start getting more loans from Google and social media. Check us out at originatorssuccess.com. And last but not least, if you would like a text reminder for this show each and every weekday morning, go ahead and go to hmmr.io/reminder, hmmr.io/reminder, and sign up for that text reminder. So who do we got here this morning? Say good morning if you're here this morning. Let me know that you're here. Love to see you. Let's say hi to the live folks. We got Mr. Mike Tebow here this morning. Good morning, sir. Tim Kyla, longtime friend and Originator Success member. Always appreciate you, sir. Monica Dinkins, good morning. Randy Tickle, giddy up, my friend. Megan Lindbergh, good morning. Kenny Rivard, Dan Crowley, glad to have you back, by the way, Mr. Crowley. Mallory Fotiades, Ron Siegel, happy day, happy Unicorn Day. I don't know if it really is Unicorn Day. I'll take your word for it, Mr. Siegel. Rob Stewart, good morning. Great to have you here. Tom Deadmore on Facebook, thank you, sir. Good morning. Great to see you here. All right. So now that we got the hellos out of the way, let's go ahead and jump into where we're at this morning. Rachel should be a little bit better than yesterday. Not going to see tremendously better, but a little bit better. So basically, if we take a look at the technicals, mortgage-backed securities yesterday, they kind of improved a little bit right around 10 a.m. That was, if we look at the 5-day chart, you could really see this. In fact, let me zoom in on them. We'll show you a little closer here. So taking a look here, yesterday we had that big drop off to start the day. We did kind of recover, and then it lost a bit of growth, then gained. It basically was quiet through most of the day. No real risk of reprices. This morning, you can see we've kind of improved on that, back up to where we ended the day on Friday here. Friday, we ended back around 98.85. Right now we're at 91, just a little bit better. So we're up about 17 to 20 basis points this morning. The 10-year treasury yield also looking a little bit better. 4.38 after hitting that peak of 4.42. So we're glad to see it moving back down a little bit, although 4.5 is really the line in the sand on that. This morning, reprice risk is low. It's not likely that we're going to have to worry about seeing anything major happen today. It should be quiet. Bonds are settled in. Once again, they're easing off their worst levels. And it should be calm ahead of tomorrow's CPI inflation data. So if you've got anything closing near term that you're nervous about, you're gonna need to go ahead and consider locking it today ahead of tomorrow's data. I don't think we're gonna get hurt by tomorrow's data, though. Not looking for anything amazing when it comes to the CPI inflation data. I think we've had a couple of fairly weak CPI reports this year that haven't come in and given us anything stellar, and I don't think tomorrow's going to do anything that shows that inflation has suddenly got tremendously better either. We could see some pullback though. So if you got anything closing in the next couple of weeks and you're nervous about it, then locking is the proactive thing to do. Although I'm not really keen on locking on these levels, and let me show you why. If we take a look here, I want to show you guys where rates have kind of been and where the outlook remains to be here. When you take a look, we have seen mortgage rates. Right now, we're at 7.11 according to Mortgage News Daily. Again, using that as a reference point for your rate sheets. And that was the worst levels that we saw back in the middle of March. It was exactly the same level, 7.11. And we've been as good as 6 7/8. We've gone up to about, I'm going to call this 7 1/8, even though I know that rate sheets are higher than that. Realistically, we're floating within a quarter point range. It's really not that big of a move. Now, I'd love to know, are you seeing much bigger moves than this on your rate sheets? Good morning, Michael Love, Jennifer Zakaris, Chris Perfor, Kyle Mazekas, Lee Whitty, Deb Dickinson, John Melnick. Good morning, all. Remember, if you're joining late, if you'd like, you can always get a text reminder for the show. Mr. Morano, good morning, sir. hmmr.io/reminder. You could sign up and get that. But what I'd like to know again, let me know in the comments, are you guys seeing rates that are moving much more significantly than this quarter point that we're seeing using Mortgage News Daily? I mean, we're talking 6 7/8 here, up to 7 1/8. That's a quarter point. And I mean, we've seen it move up and down. Of course, pricing moves, but we're not seeing rates significantly move higher, right? We're just seeing days that are better to lock and days that are not. Are you seeing this in the same thing? Let me know in the comments. I haven't seen any comments yet, but I know there's a bit of a delay. Let me know what you're seeing. Are you seeing significant movements one way or the other? And because this is very important, the idea is if you've got something that's closing, what are the chances that we're going to come off of the worst levels here? And I think that it's a pretty good shot that we'll see it come off over the next few days. We've seen strong inflation before and it has hurt us. The inflation data that came in last month was right around March 8th. And you could see here, we actually had a good day on that actual, or no, that wasn't the inflation. It was March 12th or 13th. I think it was the 12th or 13th here. And you could see that we had some pull down from here, but we were coming off the best levels this time around. Let me make this a little smaller. It's a little too big, so it's kind of hard to really get an idea on this. But there you go. This time around, you could see we've gone down, we've gone up. Let's look. When was that last CPI report? CPI dates. That's what happens when you get old. You don't remember all this. None of you have put that in the comments for me. Let me know in the comments. Have you guys seen more than a quarter point range that rates have been in over the last month? Have you seen them move significantly higher or significantly lower? If so, I'd really like to know that because I'm using this as a reference point. It's easy for me to do that. And based on that, you could see, I mean, we have good days, we have bad days. You want to lock and catch those good days, but I haven't really seen significant rates, increases. I haven't seen rates move up a lot, right? Ron said it seems like there's some compression in the spread between the 10-year and the 30-year mortgage rate. Yeah, I see that too, Ron. Good morning, Manko. Good morning, Venkat, Austin, Scott Menser. Great to see you, sir. So anyway, here, the last date that we had was March 12th. So that was March 12th. And taking a look at mortgage-backed securities on March 12th, you can see here, we lost ground that day. When that CPI data came out, we had some movement. We ultimately lost ground. But again, we were coming off of a really strong rally and it kind of set everything up to fall down, but then it bounced back up. So this was March 12th. And then on March 27th, we were kind of back up. And if you look at the rate sheets, again, using Mortgage News Daily as a reference point, March 12th was 6.92. It had pushed up and from 6.94. And then, what was that other date that we were just looking at was the 27th. And if we look at like the 27th, 28th, we were at 6.91. So here it is on the 12th, and we were back to it here. So yeah, it got worse and then it got better. And it got worse and it got better. Now, what's a little bit different this time is if we take a look at the expectation of the Fed rate increases, that's different, but I still don't think it's going to be that bad. Scott said I would say about an eighth up and down. Yeah, right. Aldrina, same thing. Good morning. No significant moves in last month, just a bit better and a bit worse. Deb said not really, maybe within a day, with higher volatility. Crystal said some have, and those investors, there's a reason that they're doing it. They're increasing margin, they're doing something. But looking at the Fed expectations, we're not expecting to see any kind of a Fed rate cut May 1st. That's still 3 weeks away, right? At least a full, almost 4 weeks away, even still. So we're not expecting to see a rate cut in May. Expectation of a June cut had been, right now it's about 54%, 55% expectation that we'll see a rate cut. It's almost a 50-50. This is probably the worst that it's seen. If we click the little compare tool here, a month ago, there was some expectation that we would see 2 rate cuts because they were still pricing in maybe a May cut, right? And then expectation a month ago that we would be 57%, and now we're at 53%. So overall, the big thing is that it was 26% that we were expecting that we wouldn't see any moves. Now that's up to 44%. That's where the big change has been, and it's the idea that we've lost it here, but the kind of in the middle ground hasn't changed. Look at the end of the year. That's kind of telling as well. When we take a look at the end of the year, there, a month ago, expectations were that we were going to see rates at 4.25, and now that's off the table. Now we're looking at almost the best of 4.5, which would be 3 rate cuts, and a 50-50 that will only get 2 rate cuts. And if we kind of make this, we'll do current so you can kind of see it a little bit better. But right now, still barely pricing in the idea that we're going to see 3 rate cuts, but not giving up the idea that there'll only be 2 or less. That's 43, 45%, 45%. So 55% that will be more than that. And what's funny is, when you look at what some of these policies are, right? State Street sees 0.5 point Fed rate cut as soon as June, a 0.5 point cut in June. Whereas when we look at what markets are betting on, they're not betting on that at all. They're betting that there's not even, that there may be a 0.25 point cut if we're lucky. Sorry, I clicked the wrong button. Here we go. That we may see a 0.25 point cut if we're lucky. So, on one hand, you've got State Street Global Advisors, saying, hey, we think there's going to be this huge rate cut. And then you've got Fed Bullard saying, hey, and again, he's not even a Fed member anymore. He went over to Purdue. And he says 3 rate cuts are still the base case. And you look over here, and you've got Neel Kashkari, which again, Purdue boy over here, Bullard, he's not even a member of the Fed anymore. And then Kashkari is not a voting member this year. And he said that in his base case, it remains inflation will continue to fall and the labor market is no longer red hot. And, that he was saying that there may not need to be any cuts at all, which that's ludicrous, right? That just doesn't sound like it fits. So you're definitely seeing all of that. So keep that in mind. Although we're seeing rates move, and you guys are seeing, I see Scott said I would say about 1/8 up and down. Mike Moran had pricing increase yesterday, less than 0.25 point, about an hour, about 1/8. So yeah, I mean, and that's kind of what my point is here is I don't think we're going to see anything really all that big. If you want to lock anything closing in the next couple of weeks, because we don't know how the inflation data is going to come out tomorrow, then that's the prim and proper thing to do. But even I don't think that it's going to start anything huge. We've got some support here with the technicals with the 200-day moving average at 98.50. That would be about 40 basis points worse than where we're at now, which means you would see a 0.25 point jump on that. In rate. That's probably our worst case scenario if we were to totally lose the bottom on it. But I don't think that we will. Also, one of the things I want to point out, I really liked this, and we talk about the headlines here. Interesting in the headline. Finally, what Joe's interested in this morning over here on Bloomberg. Tomorrow we get the March CPI report. The expectations for a 0.3% increase in the core reading month over month. Generally speaking, we've started the year with hotter than expected inflation prints, which is why the timing of that first rate cut seemingly keeps getting pushed out into the future. We've seen this for months and months now where any expectation of improvement gets pushed out. Some are wondering whether we'll get rate cuts at all this year. Anyway, it's not just the inflation data that's been coming in better than expected. Obviously, the job growth numbers have come in higher than anticipated. Now, Ron Siegel, I want you to listen up to this part. This is important. You're going to like this. With a strong top line figure in last Friday's report, 303,000 versus 214,000 jobs that were expected. That being said, not all labor data is hot. While it's true that job gains continue to get marked at a strong clip, other numbers speak to a more placid environment. When you peel back the skin on the onion, right? The quits rate has actually been hanging out at levels lower than what it was prior to COVID in 2019. So we're seeing less quits, meaning people are not job jumping. They're not quitting because there's not better opportunities or something that they're going for, right? Measures of wage growth seem to be fully normalizing. Nick Bunker at Indeed posted this update from their proprietary wage tracker yesterday, totally back to normal here. And that's right here on this. This is an Indeed chart. Year over year growth, U.S. posted wage growth where, through the pandemic, wage growth had gone absolutely insane because the people were trying to get workers. Now it's fallen back down to where it was before the pandemic, back in that low three area. And Indeed is seeing that. So one of the things we learned in 2010 is in the 2010s is the labor market can keep improving, more jobs, lower unemployment without an inflation acceleration. In the 2010s, our labor market was doing really well, and we didn't see inflation at all. We didn't see wage inflation, right? We didn't see a wage inflation spiral, anything like that. Speed seemed to be more important than destination. So far in 23 and 24, we seem to be learning the same story. We keep adding jobs. The unemployment rate remains low, and inflation has come down significantly since its peak. That is the Fed's Goldilocks scenario, the definition of a soft landing and what they want to see. And it's what we're getting. So they're not in a hurry to cut rates because they're not seeing that they are hurting the job market, but the job market also not quite as strong as it projects to be either. So all of this basically says we're likely to see more of the same, where rates are capped from getting too much worse than where we see, 7.25-ish here, right? That would be the worst we've seen in months, but that would probably be the worst it's going to get. We're not going to go back to those October rates. Take a look at mortgage-backed securities. Let me make this full screen for you for a minute. And when you look back 6 months and you see where mortgage-backed securities were in October, look at how much lower they were than now. I mean, there's such a visible difference, right? We're still up here. We're not going to see the bottom fall out. We're not going to go back to those 8%. This was 8% interest rates over here. We're not going to see that again. We don't have any concern about that. And that's why my advice would be to cautiously float, especially things that have more time, because it's very unlikely that we're going to see something with the bottom fall out. What would likely happen is, worst case, we're probably going to end up at the worst rates that we saw in February, which is kind of where we're at now anyway. When we looked at those, these are 7.25-ish maybe. So a little bit worse than what we have now. And then we'll likely bounce back up again because we are going to move into a window where the expectation is that eventually the Fed is going to go ahead and cut rates. But as long as there's no threat of a Fed rate hike, as long as we don't see any reason to be concerned about any of that, then we don't have to really get nervous about this stuff. I mean, that's just kind of my take on it. So anyway, that's what I got for you all. I'm going to start cutting these down in time, I think. But I got 42 of you on, 24 on Facebook, 3 on our group, 13 on our page, and 2 of you on YouTube. So again, thank you for joining me. Remember, tomorrow we're going to be here. We're going to be talking about what's going on with that CPI inflation report. I'm not expecting it to come in better than expected at all. I think we could see some negative reaction to it. So just be aware if you're locking anything that's closing near term. But overall, I don't think we'd have to worry about it a week or two out. I think we'll recover. We've got the May 1st meeting coming. The Fed will say a lot of the same thing they're saying. If loans are closing, if you've got something closing in June, in May, late May, middle of May, I wouldn't be locking any of that. I just don't think that we have to worry about it. I'm just not afraid of that. We'll see recovery. We're at some of our worst levels. I don't like locking on those. We're already coming back. Mike, nothing about the clips. Did I see it? I did see the eclipse, Mike. I mean, I don't know. I tend to not really get all hyped up about that kind of stuff. So, but yeah, I did see the eclipse, and here you go. Since you asked, here are some of my own pictures. I took those eclipse glasses and put them over my phone and took a couple of pics as we were. This one's pretty cool. But that's, there you go. So that's what it looked like without the glasses, right? We had a lot of cloud cover, and then it looks like with the glasses. So you got that, and you got that, and you got that. I'm going to zoom in. And then later on, I just showed that. That was about as much of as we saw in the path that I was at. We weren't going to get a total eclipse. We got the partial eclipse, so it's not quite as cool with the ring. But that's there. John said, stop it with the eclipse. Yeah, I'm with you, John. It wasn't, I don't know. It's not a big thing to me. Robert said CPI never seems to be better than expected, and it's not going to be right now, Robert, because inflation's not going down more than expected. It's continued to look at. I'll talk more about this tomorrow. I've especially gotten a little long in the tooth here. So chart, right? But look at the CPI chart. Let me throw this up over here. I mean, look at what we got going on with the CPI chart here. With the core, We want the core, so all items minus food and energy. I mean, look at what we've seen. It's still going down. And the Fed members even said they don't expect it to go down straight down. What we're seeing is not terrible. I mean, where were we in April of 2023? We were at 5.5. So 5.5, we're down to 3.8. That's the right direction. Everyone acts like we're going backwards and that we've seen it like do this where it will like drop down and then started to go back up. We haven't seen it go back up. It's continuing to go down. It's just not going down at some super speed. It's really the inflation is not what's stopping rates from getting better. It's actually the jobs data and the other economic data. There's no reason for the Fed to have to cut rates because they could actually cause a condition where inflation starts to increase. So, Scott said, "I don't know. It's going to get dark today at sundown. What to do?" I know. I see the sun go over the mountain, and it's like, oh no, the sun is behind a mountain. I only see part of the sun. I know. It's a big deal, right? So, anyway, there you go, my friends. That is it for today. I hope you guys will join me tomorrow. Remember, we do this each and every day. I'll see you at 9:30 a.m. tomorrow. Have a fantastic day. Bye-bye.